Hello, this is tutorial number 5. And, oh, I need to start my screen share. Okay, so for tutorial number 5, GIMP tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a simple advertisement. There's some different things involved that I'll show you that are functions on GIMP where you can take a photo that looks like this and turn it into an ad that looks kind of like this. I'll show you how to prepare the photo, how to adjust the size of the canvas so that there's room for text, add text for the product claims, and how to add a shape and fill the color. So let's get started. This is a photo that I took of a blue ceramic bowl. Whatever the product is, a lot of times it's easier to create an advertisement for it if you have a blank background. This one is not completely blank, but I've got a white table right here and a kind of an off-white wall that I'm working with. But the less you have in the background, the easier it is, because then you can erase the items in the background and they don't end up as things that are distracting. Okay, so to erase these parts in the background, I'm looking at this and I want this here to look like this color. Right now, you might look at it and go, oh, well, that's white. So I'm just going to pick white, use a paintbrush and go and cover over it. And that kind of does a job, but it looks like there's an edge here and that color isn't really matching it. So instead of doing it that way, I am going to use the color picker. Here's my color picker tool. And click pretty close to where that is. When I use the color picker tool, the color will show up over here. Let me set it to the colors it comes with. It will naturally have a white foreground and a black background color. Here I have my color picker tool. Notice if I pick on the bowl, it will be blue. If I pick right here, I've got a gray. And if I pick down here, I have a lighter gray. So now I've got my color picked. And then I can click on my paintbrush and cover it up. Now it's blending in more. You'll notice it didn't really cover it all the way up. That's because I have my opacity set at 55%. If I want it to be stronger, I can move it up. Okay, and you'll also notice that it's not creating a hard edge between this area and this area. This area looks a little bit more pinkish blue. I'm sorry, pinkish gray, and this area looks a little bit more bluish gray. I'm going to end up using more of this type of color instead of this one. So that's why I was picking from the table. And I can cover that up. And this side might be the same or it might be a little bit different. A lot of times our eyes get fooled and we think like this area and this area of color are exactly the same. Let's check it out and see what happens when I go like this. It seems to match pretty well, so I'm going to keep using that. And And I'm going to take out a lot of that pink. This gives me a background that's not distracting. In the last demo, I was showing how to copy an area and paste it, and then how to blur the background. That's another option for making an object stand out. I've got a little something down here on the table. I don't want that to end up in my photo either. Okay, but now when I do it down here, I notice that my color looks just a little bit off. So instead of using the same color, I'm going to undo that and pick from the color down here. Then when I use my paintbrush, it will cover it up without leaving so much of an edge. And there's a little something over here too. And a little dot right in there close to the bowl. So it's cleaned up. I don't see a lot of extra things around it. I can just go from here, but I am going to use the brightness contrast to make the background a little bit lighter. I go to colors, brightness contrast. So colors, brightness contrast. Notice what happens when I put a little bit more contrast. There, see the background gets lighter. If it looks too bright, I can lower it. So I don't want to get rid of any details here on the bowl by making it too bright, but I think this is going to work. Remember, if I put it lower, it will get darker. And if I put less contrast, it will get more gray, more to the middle. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So I click OK. And now I can see that it looks like this. Hey, my product is ready. I'm going to use a bowl in my advertisement. So now that I've got this ready, I need to add the words, but the space isn't really big enough. See, I would like to have more space around the bowl. One way I can do this is by changing the canvas size. To do that, I go to Image, Canvas Size. Okay, on Image Canvas Size, I can change it by percent, by pixels, by inches. This is showing how big it is in inches currently. So there's a lot of options here. I like using either the inches or the percent. Gives me a good idea of what's going to happen. So if I put in 200 for the width, it's showing me that it has now added another space that is as wide as the picture of the bowl. I can slide the bowl around in here if I want to. Now I added more to the height. So I could put my picture of the bowl up here. I'm going to put it down here, and I'm actually not going to have that much space because that's going to be too much. It's going to make my bowl look too small. So I will put it at 150. And I'm keeping my bowl here on the right side. That's actually good for advertising too, because we tend to read from left to right. So if we're reading from left to right, then our eye tends to land on whatever's on the right side. So it's a good idea to put a product on the right side. I click resize. And now I see that it looks bigger. The space around the bowl looks bigger, but I've got all of this here. I've got all of this gray checker look back here. It's like, what's that? Ah, I need to have another layer. So I go to Layer, New. And the current background is transparent, but I don't want another transparent layer. So I'm going to pick white to try to match with what I've got here. We'll see if it matches. If it doesn't match, I can change the color. So I click OK. And it's white. Oh no, it has covered everything up. Uh-oh. It's not really gone though. It's just underneath. Over here, I've got my layers. And if I click on the one underneath and drag it above, now it's showing up again. And I can see that the color is not matching, right? This background looks like a light blue compared to this one here, which is white. So what I can do is use my color picker. Pick the color that I want on the layer. I have to be on the correct layer, which I am. I'm clicked on the correct layer and I color pick. Then I click on the layer where I want to put the color, which is this one. Also here, it's this one. I can use the paint bucket tool, the bucket fill tool, and click on that layer. Ta-da! It looks like it's matching now. Hooray! So now it is matching. If you end up not having it quite match and there's a little bit of an edge, you can use your color picker and use a paintbrush and paint the correct color on the edges to make sure that it will match up. Remember, if you're trying to make it match and not have a hard edge, that you'll want to use a softer brush and maybe a lower opacity. So if I click on my brush tool, see this one here would be hard. And then the one I have right now is soft. You can see the hardness here is 25 as opposed to this one, which is a hardness of 100, like 100%. Okay, so I don't need to do anything else with the background. It's there. Next thing that I want is to have some text on here. So I've prepared the photo, I've adjusted the size of the canvas. Now I need to add some text to create my product claims. A lot of products have, or in a lot of product ads, they like to use contrast to draw your eye. In this case, I'm trying to use complementary colors to draw your eye more to this advertisement. Blue and orange would be the set of complementary colors. You can also use red and green, yellow and purple, because those are other sets of complementary colors. Another good way is if you have black and white, if you have a high contrast with your light areas and dark areas, that will also be attention grabbing. And there's some other combinations out there that are pretty good for getting attention too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use a set of complementary colors because I've already got this nice blue on my bowl, so it makes sense to use the opposite, which is orange. So to find my orange, I'm going to first start by looking at what color blue I have. Oh, I have to be on the right layer. Okay, so I'm on my layer with my product. I click on it. Aha, here's my color. So now I'm going to choose a color that I want for my text. When I click on the color area, my color choosing pop-up shows up. Currently, it's here on the blue. It's showing what color I've got selected here. So I'm going to pick an orange color. And I don't want my particular text. I could have it super bright orange like this. That could work. But I feel like that might be a little bit hard to read. So I'm going to go with a bit of a darker orange. It's still within the opposite range. It's still complementary. Now, when I like the color, I click OK. And if I have a light background, it's easier to read a darker text, which is another reason I'm picking a darker color for my text. To add the text, I click on the text tool, click and drag to create the text area. And text is going to automatically create a new layer once I start typing in here. But it looks like my text is really tiny and I don't want it to be that small. I want it bigger. So I'm going down here to the size. Let's try 600 to start off with. Here's my product name. Choose whatever name you would like for your product. To position the text, you can drag it from the corners or from the sides, and it will try to fit into that box. If I make it too small, the text gets cut off. Okay, this text still looks a bit smaller than what I want. Let's see this. Too big. Okay, that's more like the size that I would like. So I'm going to adjust where I have it. And now I'm going to add some other text underneath, like this. Notice it has created a text layer here. Now, when I want to create another area of text, I can click and drag somewhere else, and it will create a new area. But I'm not going to want that quite as big. So I've got a second area of text. This is like a tagline. If I was advertising something that maybe I want to say about it to help people remember, if I'm advertising something, I might use words that sound similar. Like if I repeat the letter B a lot, it might help somebody remember what I'm trying to advertise. So that's why I wrote it like this. The text can be um, left justified, it can be right justified, or it can be centered. I'm going to put this particular part of the text as centered. And then I've got a third area of text, which is some of the claims that I'm making about it, things that I want people to notice about it. Maybe they would want to buy it more if I said these things. Okay, I'm making this part of the text even smaller. Okay, not quite that small. That's better. Okay. And the reason why is the text will have a hierarchy to it. The larger the size of text, the more that's going to be noticed first. So it goes top down. Usually we read from the top down, left to right, and also bigger to smaller. So if I make this part of the text smaller, it gets read after the other part of the text. Keep going back to the other ad to see what I wrote. Right, now this is not real claims for this particular bowl. Just so you guys know, this is imaginary. If you were to drop this bowl, it would break and you wouldn't cook in it, not for real. And it's not as seen on TV. Okay, I'm gonna click out of that layer. If I click on this background layer, then some of those lines go away and I can see where everything is lined up. If I don't like where a piece of the text is lined up, say I want this to be higher or this to be lower or something, I can change where it is. Notice each of the areas of text is a separate layer. So I'm on this one and I decide to move it up just a bit. And this one, I will make it like this. Okay, so now I have the text on there. I know I didn't put that exclamation mark that was in the other ad, but I've got my text on. And I'm going to do one more thing to make it interesting, which is to add a shape behind the text. So I'm going to add that shape and fill it with color. To do this, I'm going to make a new layer. If I put it onto an existing layer, it might cover up something I've already got. Like if I put a shape onto this layer, whoops, I might cover up my bowl accidentally. So it's a good idea to make a new layer. I go to Layer, New, and this time I don't want it filled. I want it to be a transparent layer. I can't see it. Oh no, is it there? It is. It's right here. I'm first going to put it at the very top. I just moved that layer to the very top so that we'll be able to see everything that's happening on that layer. I don't want my shape to be this color. I'm going to pick a brighter orange. Here you can see my text color that was previously picked, and then you can see what color I'm going to pick now. I want to have enough contrast so that when I put the shape under my text, it won't blend in. Click OK. Now I can make a couple of different types of shapes. I can use a rectangle, squares and rectangles, or I could do circles and ellipses, or I can choose from the lasso tool and create lasso shapes. Okay, in this instance, I'm going to use the rectangle and create a rectangle shape. Okay, here's my shape. To fill it with the color, I grab the bucket fill tool, go to the inside. I'm still on that layer, that new transparent layer I made. Click inside. Ta-da! I have an orange shape. So it's covering up my text. I can move that layer underneath my text layers, and now it's not covering it up. Also, I can change where that shape is and how it looks. See, in this example, I created the shape, but then I turned it. I'll show you how that works. So to turn my shape, I'm going to go to Rotate tool. I still need to make sure I'm on the correct layer, otherwise I will rotate the wrong thing, right? I have to make sure I'm there. So layer 1 is what it was called. It's got the orange bar right there. I click on my rotate tool, and then I click on the item to rotate. Don't worry that you can't see the text right there. It will still be there after the shape gets rotated. So now that I've clicked, I have a pop-up. I can use these buttons here to move it slowly. I can also click and drag on the shape itself. And when I like where it's at, I click rotate. There it is. And now that it's done, I can save it. It did create a floating transform right here. if I don't want it to be a floating transform, and you don't necessarily need to know too much about that to do this, I can put it on a new layer. Okay, but it doesn't matter if it's floating there. All right, remember that if you're done, you want to go File, Export As to save it. So that's what we were just learning about, how to create and add, how to prepare the photo by getting rid of the background, how to adjust the size of the canvas so I have space for text, how to add the text to create the product claims, and how to add a shape and fill it with color.